The bride was dying. Stage 4 cancer, 6 months to live, maybe less. Except she wasn't dying. She was perfectly healthy. She'd been faking terminal illness for 18 months to manipulate her fiancé into marrying her. And I discovered the truth 3 weeks before their wedding when I accidentally saw her running a 10K race. The same woman who'd been in a wheelchair at our last meeting was sprinting across a finish line with a marathon bib pinned to her chest. This is the story of how I exposed the most manipulative bride I've ever encountered, destroyed a wedding 3 days before the ceremony, and saved a man from marrying a woman who'd been slowly killing him with a lie.
Before we begin today's story, I'd love to know something about you. Tell me, from which city are you watching? Leave your answer in the comments below. Now, take a deep breath, sit back, and let's begin this journey together.
The consultation request came through email in early August, and it broke my heart before I even met them. Subject, urgent wedding. Terminal illness, tight timeline. Dear Maya, my name is Tyler Brooks. My fiancée Amanda has been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Her doctors have given her 6 to 9 months. We want to get married before the end. We need someone who can plan a beautiful wedding on a tight timeline with special accommodations for Amanda's medical needs. Can you help us? We're desperate. Tyler. I called him within an hour. Tyler, I'm so sorry about Amanda's diagnosis. I'd be honored to help you create a meaningful celebration for whatever time you have together. His voice was thick with emotion. Thank you. We've been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. We were planning a big wedding for next year, but after the diagnosis, we just want to be married. We want that time as husband and wife. I completely understand. How is Amanda doing? Is she up for wedding planning, or would you prefer I work primarily with you? She has good days and bad days. The chemo makes her really sick, but she wants to be involved. She says planning the wedding gives her something to look forward to, something to fight for. My heart broke for them. I'd planned weddings for terminally ill people before. It's always devastating, but also beautiful. Love celebrated in the shadow of death. Commitment made more meaningful by limited time. When were you thinking for the wedding date? November 10th. That gives us 3 months to plan. The doctors say she should still be strong enough by then. After that, they're not sure. November 10th. 3 months away. Tight but manageable. I can do November 10th. Let's meet this week and discuss what you both envision. We scheduled a consultation for Friday at my office. I spent the next 3 days researching weddings for terminally ill brides, accessibility needs, medical accommodations, how to create meaningful ceremonies for couples facing mortality. Friday arrived. I was prepared for a heartbreaking but beautiful meeting. What I wasn't prepared for was Amanda. They arrived at 2 p.m. on Friday. Tyler came in first, pushing a wheelchair. In it sat Amanda, pale, thin, wearing a soft pink headscarf covering her head, suggesting hair loss from chemotherapy, moving slowly and carefully. She had an oxygen tank attached to the wheelchair and wore a medical alert bracelet on her wrist. She looked exactly like someone fighting cancer, exactly like someone dying. Maya, thank you so much for meeting with us, Tyler said, his voice gentle as he helped Amanda out of the wheelchair and into a consultation chair. She moved stiffly, as if in pain. Of course. Amanda, how are you feeling today? Tired, she said softly, her voice weak. But happy to be here. Planning our wedding is keeping me going. She reached for Tyler's hand. He gripped it tightly, looking at her with such love and devastation that I had to look away. Tell me about your relationship. How did you meet? Tyler spoke mostly, with Amanda adding occasional quiet comments. They'd met through mutual friends 3 years ago, dated for a year before Tyler proposed. They'd been planning a large wedding for the following summer when Amanda started having symptoms. Stomach pain, Amanda said, her hand moving to her abdomen. I thought it was just stress, but it kept getting worse. Finally went to the doctor in February. They ran tests and found... She trailed off, tears forming. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Tyler finished, his own voice breaking. Inoperable. They're trying chemo to manage symptoms and maybe extend time, but there's no cure. We have months, maybe 6, maybe 9 if we're lucky. I'm so sorry, I said, and I meant it. The grief in that room was palpable. We want to get married while Amanda is still strong enough to enjoy it. Tyler continued. While she can still walk down the aisle, still dance, still have moments of joy. We want those memories before. He couldn't finish. Amanda squeezed his hand. Tell me about your vision for the wedding, I said gently. Something simple, Amanda said. Nothing too exhausting. Maybe 75 guests, close friends and family. I want to be able to actually participate, not just be wheeled through it. We want it to be beautiful, Tyler added. I want Amanda to have the wedding she dreamed of. Budget isn't an issue. I've been selling things, pulling from savings, doing whatever it takes to make this perfect for her. Red flag number 1. Tyler was liquidating assets to fund the wedding while Amanda was supposedly facing massive medical bills. But I pushed the thought aside. People make sacrifices for dying loved ones. It wasn't suspicious. It was devotion. What kind of budget are we working with? $75,000, Tyler said. I know that's a lot for 3 months' notice, but I want to give Amanda everything. $75,000 for a 75-person wedding was generous. More than generous. That's absolutely workable. Have you thought about venue? Somewhere accessible, Amanda said. I'll probably need the wheelchair for part of the day and close to medical facilities just in case. Of course, I have several venues in mind that can accommodate those needs. What about the ceremony itself? Any specific elements you want to include? Amanda's face lit up, the first genuine happiness I'd seen from her. I want it to be about love surviving everything, about commitment that death can't break. I want our vows to acknowledge that we're facing the hardest thing, but we're facing it together. It was beautiful, heartbreaking and beautiful. We spent 2 hours discussing details. Amanda tired visibly toward the end, slumping in her chair, her voice becoming weaker. Tyler noticed immediately. We should wrap up. Amanda needs to rest. Of course, I have enough to start working on vendor options. Amanda, how involved do you want to be in the planning process? I can handle most details and just check in for major decisions if that's easier. I want to be involved, Amanda said firmly, some strength returning to her voice. This might be the last big thing I get to plan. I don't want to miss it. Then we'll work at your pace. No pressure, no deadlines you can't meet. This is your wedding, your timeline. As they were leaving, Tyler carefully helped Amanda back into the wheelchair. I noticed how attentive he was, adjusting her oxygen tank, tucking a blanket around her legs, making sure she was comfortable. He was completely devoted, completely destroyed by her illness, completely convinced she was dying. After they left, I sat at my desk feeling the weight of planning a wedding for someone with months to live. I'd done this before. I'd planned celebration for couples facing terminal diagnoses. It was always heavy, always emotional, always bittersweet. But something about this felt different. I couldn't articulate what, just a feeling. 2 weeks later, we met at a venue that specialized in accessible events. Amanda arrived in the wheelchair again, this time with Tyler and her mother, Mrs. Patricia Chen, a woman in her 50s who looked exhausted and grief-stricken. Mrs. Chen, I'm Maya. I'm so sorry about Amanda's diagnosis. Thank you, she said quietly. We're just grateful Amanda found Tyler. He's been such a support through all of this. We toured the venue, a beautiful historic mansion with ramps, accessible bathrooms, and medical-grade air filtration, important for immunocompromised patients undergoing chemo. Amanda loved it immediately. This is perfect. Mom, don't you think this is perfect? Mrs. Chen smiled sadly. If my baby is happy, I'm happy. During the tour, I observed the family dynamics. Tyler was constantly checking on Amanda. Are you cold? Do you need water? Should we take a break? He was exhausted himself, dark circle under his eyes, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the months since diagnosis. Mrs. Chen cried quietly several times, especially when Amanda mentioned details like if I'm strong enough for a first dance, and assuming I can still walk by November. And Amanda? Amanda seemed simultaneously sick and strangely energized by the wedding planning. She'd drift between looking genuinely exhausted and becoming animated when discussing details she cared about. After we'd confirmed the venue, we sat in the mansion's consultation room to discuss next steps. I'll need to book vendors quickly, I said. 3-month timeline means a lot of the top-tier people are already booked. I'll prioritize availability and your needs. Whatever you think is best, Tyler said. Money isn't an object. I want Amanda to have everything. Tyler's been so generous, Amanda said, squeezing his hand. Selling his car, taking on extra work, pulling from his 401k. I keep telling him not to, but he insists. Red flag number 2. Tyler was draining retirement savings for a wedding while Amanda faced medical bankruptcy. Amanda's medical bills have been overwhelming, Mrs. Chen explained, seeing my expression. Insurance covers some, but not everything. Tyler's been helping with that too. I'd do anything for her, Tyler said simply. It was touching, devastating, the kind of love that makes you believe in humanity, and yet something still felt off. The suspicion I couldn't quite articulate intensified when Amanda's friend shared a GoFundMe link in a wedding planning group chat. Help Amanda fight cancer and have her dream wedding. Amanda Chen is a beautiful soul fighting stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She's 28 years old and planning to marry the love of her life this November before her illness progresses. Amanda faces overwhelming medical bills, and her dream of a beautiful final wedding is at risk. Please help make her last wish come true. Goal: $50,000. Raised $38,000. I stared at the campaign for a long time. On one hand, crowdfunding for medical expenses and wedding costs was common for terminally ill patients, nothing inherently suspicious. On the other hand, Tyler was already spending $75,000 on the wedding. What was the GoFundMe money for? I clicked through to read the updates Amanda had posted. Thank you so much for your generosity. The chemo has been really rough this week, but knowing so many people care keeps me fighting. Every donation brings me closer to having the wedding I dreamed of with Tyler. You're all angels. Had another round of treatment today, so sick. But thinking about November 10th keeps me going. We're up to 30,000. You're making my dream possible. Love you all. The updates came with photos. Amanda in hospital gowns. Amanda with IV lines. Amanda looking pale and exhausted. All the visual markers of a cancer patient. But something about the photos felt staged, posed. I couldn't identify what specifically bothered me. They looked like authentic hospital photos. Amanda looked genuinely ill. Yet my instincts, the same instincts that had caught a bigamist and exposed identity fraud, were screaming that something was wrong. I did what I always do when I don't trust my own judgment. I investigated. I started with social media. Amanda's Facebook was a timeline of cancer journey posts, photos in hospital beds, updates about treatment, inspirational quotes about fighting, friends commenting with support and prayers. Her Instagram was similar, lots of cancer fighter and "God fuck cancer" and "the living my best life." Photos of her and Tyler, her looking pale and thin, him looking devoted and devastated. Everything tracked with the narrative of a young woman bravely battling terminal illness. Except, I noticed something in the metadata of the photos. I'm not tech savvy enough to extract metadata myself, but I had a friend who was Rachel, a photographer, who taught me about digital forensics after the David Chen bigamy case. Rachel, I need help with something. Can you check the metadata on these photos? Tell me when they were actually taken? Rachel pulled the EXIF data from Amanda's hospital photos. Interesting, Rachel said after a few minutes. This photo that Amanda posted on September 5th, saying, "Just finished chemo, so tired." The metadata says it was actually taken on August 15th, 3 weeks before she posted it. Could the date be wrong? Metadata can be manipulated, but it takes effort. More likely, she took this photo weeks ago and posted it later with a current caption. Lots of people do that. They bank content and post it on a schedule. But if she's posting a photo from 3 weeks ago and claiming it's from today, that's misleading. Could be innocent, Rachel cautioned. Could be she had a rough day, didn't take a photo, used an old one. Or she's faking timing to make her illness seem more severe and current than it is. I had Rachel check more photos. Pattern after pattern emerge. Photos posted as current hospital visits that were actually taken weeks or months earlier. By itself, that wasn't proof of fraud, but combined with my instincts, it was enough to keep investigating. Next, I looked at the GoFundMe donors. I recognized several names, friends of Amanda's I'd met at wedding planning meetings. I called one of them Jess. under the pretense of coordinating bridesmaid details. Jess, I saw you donated to Amanda's GoFundMe. That was so generous. Of course, Amanda's been through so much. The least I can do is help with her wedding. How's she doing? I know the chemo has been rough. Yeah, she was texting me last night about how sick she felt after treatment. But she's so positive, always thinking about the wedding, about Tyler. She's inspiring. When's her next treatment? I want to make sure I don't schedule any meetings on those days. Oh, she has treatment every other Tuesday. This Tuesday is a treatment day, actually. I made a note. Amanda supposedly has chemo every other Tuesday. After hanging up with Jess, I called another vendor who'd worked the venue tour. The catering manager, someone I'd worked with for years. Hey Maria, I wanted to ask about Amanda Chen. When she was at the venue tour, did anything seem off to you? Maria was quiet for a moment. I don't want to speak ill of someone who's dying, but she didn't move like someone who's that sick. When she thought no one was looking, when she got excited about the menu options, she stood up from the wheelchair easily. No struggle, no pain. And her color was good, like healthy good, not terminal cancer patient good. But she was wearing makeup, so maybe that's why. Did you mention this to anyone? Who would I tell? Hey, I think the dying bride might not be that sick. I'd sound like a monster. I figured I was reading too much into it. People with cancer have good days. After hanging up with Maria, I sat with a growing list of inconsistencies. Tyler draining savings for wedding while supposedly paying medical bills. GoFundMe raising $38,000 on top of Tyler's $75,000 budget. Hospital photos posted with misleading timestamps. Amanda standing easily from wheelchair when she thought no one was watching Amanda's good days. Seemed very, very good. None of it was proof. All of it could be explained away, but together it created a pattern that made my instincts scream. I needed hard evidence, something definitive. That's when I remembered. Amanda supposedly had chemo every other Tuesday. The next Tuesday was September 17th. If Amanda was really going to chemo, she'd be at a medical facility receiving treatment. I decided to follow her. 72 hours until I'd confirm the truth. 48 hours until I'd have undeniable proof. 24 hours until Tyler's world would implode. Following a client felt like crossing an ethical line, but so did letting a woman fake cancer to manipulate her fiancé into marriage. I told myself I was investigating for Tyler's protection. I told myself that if I was wrong, no one would ever know I'd followed Amanda. I told myself this was due diligence. Really, I was uncomfortable, but determined. Amanda and Tyler lived in an apartment in Lincoln Park. I'd sent them a wedding planning email the night before confirming our next meeting, so I knew they'd be reachable that morning. What I needed to know was whether Amanda actually went to chemo treatment. I arrived outside their building at 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, September 17th, parked down the street where I could see the entrance. At 9:15 a.m., Tyler emerged. Alone, he looked exhausted, carrying a briefcase, clearly heading to work. So Amanda would be alone for the day. Perfect. At 10:30 a.m., Amanda emerged from the building. She walked to her car, walked, not using a wheelchair. She moved normally. No stiffness, no pain, no visible sign of illness. She was wearing a headscarf, yoga pants, and a hoodie. She carried a large purse and a water bottle. She got into her car and drove away. I followed at a distance. If she was going to chemo, she'd head toward Northwestern Memorial Hospital or one of the other major cancer treatment centers in Chicago. She didn't. She drove to a coffee shop in Lakeview, parked, went inside, came out 10 minutes later with a large coffee and what looked like a pastry. Then she drove to a gym, LA Fitness on Diversey. I watched her go inside, gym bag over her shoulder, moving energetically. No wheelchair, no oxygen tank, no visible illness. She was inside for 90 minutes. When she emerged, her hair was damp. She'd showered. She was wearing different athletic clothes. She looked flushed and healthy, like someone who'd just finished a workout. She got back in her car and drove to a nail salon. Spent an hour getting a manicure and pedicure. Then she went to lunch with two friends at a trendy brunch spot. I watched through the window as she ate heartily, laughed, gestured animatedly. She looked happy, healthy, completely normal. No hospital, no treatment center, no chemo. On the day she supposedly had chemotherapy, the treatment that was supposedly keeping her alive for a few more months, Amanda went to the gym, got her nails done, and had a long, leisurely brunch. I took photos of everything, timestamped photos that proved Amanda was not at a medical facility receiving cancer treatment on a day she'd told everyone she would be. At 2:30 p.m., Amanda drove home, went inside her building. At 5:45 p.m., Tyler arrived home from work. I watched their window. I could see into their living room from my vantage point across the street. Through the window, I saw Tyler hugging Amanda, clearly asking about her. Day. I saw Amanda move to the couch slowly, carefully, the sick performance returning now that Tyler was home. She'd been fine all day, working out, getting pampered, socializing. But the moment her fiancé came home, she was dying again. I drove home feeling sick to my stomach. I had photos of Amanda not being at chemo, but I needed more. I needed proof that she didn't have cancer at all. I called Marcus Feldman, my attorney who'd helped with previous cases. Marcus, hypothetically, how would someone verify whether a person actually has a medical diagnosis? You can't. Medical records are protected by HIPAA. You'd need the person's consent or a court order. What if someone was lying about having cancer to commit fraud? That's different. If you have evidence of fraud, specifically using a fake diagnosis to extract money or benefits, you could potentially report to authorities and they could investigate, but you'd need substantial evidence, not just suspicion. What constitutes substantial evidence? Proof that they don't have the illness they claim. Medical records showing no diagnosis, doctor confirmation that they're not a patient, financial records showing they're collecting money under false pretenses, something concrete. I had photos of Amanda not being at treatment, but I didn't have proof she didn't have cancer. Maybe she'd rescheduled, maybe she'd decided to skip that session. I needed more. The next Friday, I had a scheduled dress fitting with Amanda at an upscale bridal boutique. Tyler was traveling for work, so Amanda's mother was accompanying her instead. I arrived early and spoke privately with the boutique owner, someone I'd worked with for years. Sophia, I need to ask you something sensitive. When you've been working with Amanda on her dress, have you noticed anything unusual? Sophia looked uncomfortable. Like what? Like, does she actually seem as sick as she claims? Sophia's expression shifted. You've noticed it too. Noticed what? Maya, I fit a lot of brides. I've fit brides going through chemo. Their bodies show it. Weight loss, muscle atrophy, skin changes. Amanda doesn't have any of those markers. She's thin, but she's fit thin, not cancer thin. Her skin is healthy. Her nails are strong. She moves like an athlete, not a cancer patient. Have you said anything? To who? Her mother is with her at fittings, crying about how she's losing her daughter. The fiancé is spending a fortune to give her a dream wedding before she dies. Who am I to question it? But yeah, I've noticed she doesn't move like someone dying. What about when she's standing for fittings? Does she have trouble? None. She stands for 30, 40 minutes at a time without issue. No fatigue, no pain. When her mom isn't looking, she even does little movements, like checking herself out in the mirror, adjusting the dress, moving naturally. It's only when her mom looks at her that she suddenly becomes weak and tired. This was damning, but still not definitive proof. Sophia, would you be willing to document this? If it turns out Amanda is faking her illness, I might need witness testimony. If she's faking terminal cancer, I'll testify. That's evil. I was building a case, but I needed something unassailable, something that couldn't be explained away. That's when I made a decision that crossed every ethical line. I was going to verify whether Amanda was actually a patient at the hospital she claimed to be receiving treatment at. I couldn't directly access Amanda's medical records. HIPAA prevented that. But I could verify whether she was a patient. I went to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, the facility Amanda had mentioned several times and where she received treatment. I told him I was a wedding planner, trying to coordinate vendor access for a terminally ill client's wedding. I'm working with Amanda Chen. She's a cancer patient here. I need to know what accommodations we should make for her wedding day in November. Can I speak to her oncology team? The receptionist looked at her computer. I'm not showing an Amanda Chen as a current patient in our oncology department. She's been receiving treatment here for months. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer? More typing? I'm sorry, I don't have anyone by that name in our system. Are you sure she's a patient here? She's posted photos from this hospital. She may have come through the ER or visited someone here, but she's not a current oncology patient. I'd need her consent to share any information anyway, but I'm not finding her in our records. I tried 2 other hospitals Amanda had mentioned. Neither had her as a patient. This was it. This was the proof. Amanda Chen was not receiving cancer treatment at any of the hospitals she'd claimed. She was not in any oncology department system. She didn't have cancer. She was lying about everything. The final, undeniable confirmation came completely by accident. It was October 6th, exactly 5 weeks before the wedding. I was at a local park doing my monthly 5K run. I'm not athletic, but I try to stay active. The park was hosting a larger race that day, a 10K fundraiser for breast cancer research. I'd finished my 5K and was walking back to my car when I saw runners finishing the 10K. I stopped to cheer them on. It's a nice community moment, and then I saw her, Amanda Chen, running, sprinting across the finish line with a bib number pinned to her athletic shirt. Not walking slowly, not in a wheelchair, not looking sick, running, hard, fast, like someone who'd been training. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, full, thick hair. Not hair growing back from chemo, hair that had never fallen out. She looked strong, healthy, radiant, like someone who worked out regularly and was in excellent physical condition. She crossed the finish line with a time of 52 minutes. Good time for a 10K. I stood there, frozen, watching her celebrate with friends, watching her laugh and take photos and drink water and look completely, perfectly healthy. The same woman who'd been in a wheelchair at our last meeting 3 days ago. The same woman who supposedly had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The same woman who was supposedly 6 months from death. She was running 10Ks. I pulled out my phone and took photos. Lots of photos. Time-stamped, location tagged, undeniable photos of Amanda Chen running a race while supposedly dying of cancer. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a good day between bad days. This wasn't chemo being more effective than expected. This was fraud. Deliberate, calculated, cruel fraud. Amanda Chen was faking terminal illness to manipulate her fiancé into marrying her, and I had proof. I sat in my car in that parking lot for an hour, looking at the photos on my phone, trying to decide what to do. Option 1. Confront Amanda directly. Tell her I knew she was faking. Demand she come clean to Tyler. Risk. She'd deny everything, claim the photos were from before her diagnosis, manipulate her way out of it. Tyler would likely believe her over me. Option 2. Tell Tyler directly. Show him the photos. Let him decide what to do. Risk. Tyler was emotionally destroyed and financially bankrupted by Amanda's illness. Would he even believe me? Or would he think I was mistaken, jealous, trying to sabotage their wedding? Option 3. Report Amanda to the police for fraud. She'd collected $38,000 through GoFundMe under false pretenses. That's a crime. A risk. Would police take it seriously? Would they investigate? Would it happen fast enough to stop the wedding in 5 weeks? Option 4, do nothing. Plan the wedding. Collect my fee. Let Tyler marry Amanda. Not my business. Risk. Watching a good man marry a monster who'd been lying to him for 18 months. Being complicit in the fraud. Living with that guilt forever. I called Detective Sarah Chen, no relation to Amanda Chen, who I'd worked with on the bigamist case. Sarah, I need advice. I've discovered a bride is faking terminal cancer to manipulate her fiancé into marrying her. That's specific. Tell me everything. I walked her through all of it. The suspicious timeline, the surveillance, the hospital records, the race photos. Maya, that's fraud. GoFundMe fraud specifically, collecting money under false pretenses. You need to report this. To who? Start with GoFundMe itself. They have fraud departments. Report with your evidence. They can freeze the account and investigate, then file a police report with the fraud division. I can help you with that. And finally, yes, you need to tell the fiancé. He's a victim here. He deserves to know. What if he doesn't believe me? Then you show him the evidence. The photos, the hospital records, the race results. Maya, you have documentation. This isn't she said versus you said. You have proof. When should I tell him? Immediately. Every day you wait is another day he's being manipulated, spending money, draining his savings for a lie. You tell him today. The wedding is in 5 weeks. Then he has 5 weeks to cancel instead of 0 weeks. Or worse, he marries her and finds out later. Tell him now. Sarah was right. I knew she was right. But I also knew that what I was about to do would destroy Tyler. Not just end his engagement, destroy his entire reality. He'd been living for 18 months believing the woman he loved was dying. He'd been caregiving, grieving, preparing to lose her. Finding out it was all a lie would break him in the ways I couldn't imagine, but leaving him in the lie would be worse. I called Tyler that afternoon. Tyler, I need to meet with you alone. It's urgent and it's about Amanda. His voice filled with panic. Is she okay? Did something happen? She's fine, but I need to talk to you privately. Can you meet me today? I'm at work until 6. Can we meet after? Yes, my office at 6:30. And Tyler, don't tell Amanda we're meeting. This is something I need to discuss with you first. Maya, you're scaring me. I know, I'm sorry, but this is important, trust me. Tyler arrived at my office looking terrified. What's wrong? Is Amanda okay? Did something happen with the wedding? Tyler, sit down. This is going to be difficult. He sat, hands gripping the armrest of the chair. Just tell me. I took a deep breath. Amanda doesn't have cancer. Silence. He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. What? Amanda doesn't have cancer. She's not dying. She's been faking her illness. That's insane. Maya, I've seen her medical records. I've been with her at appointments. I've watched her go through chemo. You've seen how sick she is. What are you talking about? I pulled out my tablet. Tyler, I'm going to show you something. I need you to look at these photos and then we'll talk. I showed him the first photo. This was taken this morning at Lincoln Park. Amanda ran a 10K race. This is her crossing the finish line. Tyler looked at the photo. Looked at me, looked back at the photo. That's not possible. Amanda had chemo on Tuesday. She's been exhausted all week. She can barely walk to the bathroom without help. This can't be recent. It's time-stamped, October 6th, this morning. She ran 6.2 miles in 52 minutes. I showed him more photos. Amanda at the gym. Amanda at brunch. Amanda getting her nails done, all on the day she supposedly had chemotherapy. I followed her on September 17th. The last Tuesday she told everyone she had treatment. She didn't go to any hospital. She went to the gym, got her nails done, had lunch with friends. She was fine all day. And then when you came home from work, she suddenly became sick again. Tyler was shaking his head. No, you're wrong. Maybe she rescheduled treatment. Maybe she had a good day. People with cancer have good days. Tyler, I verified with Northwestern Memorial and 2 other hospitals she mentioned. She's not a patient at any of them. She's not receiving cancer treatment anywhere. That's impossible. I've seen her medical records. Can I see them? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos. She sent me these, her diagnosis, her treatment plan. He showed me a photo of what looked like a medical document. Diagnosis: Stage 4, pancreatic adenocarcinoma. Treatment plan: FOLFIRINOX chemotherapy regimen. I looked closer. The document had several problems. Tyler, look at this. The doctor's name is listed as Dr. James Patterson, MD, Oncology. I searched Northwestern's oncology department. No Dr. James Patterson works there. Also see this? I pointed to the letterhead. This logo's wrong. Northwestern's actual logo's different. I checked their website. She could have gone to a different hospital. I checked the hospital she mentioned. She's not a patient at any of them. And Tyler, look at this letterhead more carefully. See how the text is slightly pixelated? This was created in Photoshop or a similar program. It's a fake document. He stared at the document on his phone, seeing what I was seeing now that I'd pointed it out. No, he whispered. No, she wouldn't. She couldn't. Tyler, how much money have you spent on her medical bills? Around $85,000. Her insurance denied a lot of claims. I've been paying out of pocket for experimental treatments, special medications, medical equipment. Did you pay the hospitals directly? No, I gave Amanda the money. She handled paying the bills. She didn't want me to see how bad they were. Said it stressed her out to have me involved in the financial side. I felt sick. $85,000 that you gave to Amanda for medical bills that don't exist. Plus the $75,000 for the wedding, Tyler said, his voice hollow. And the GoFundMe raised $38,000. That's He did the math. Almost $200,000. She's taken almost $200,000 from me and from generous strangers for a disease she doesn't have. Yes. Tyler stood up abruptly, walked to the window, put his hands on the glass. His shoulders started shaking. He was crying, not sad crying, rage crying. Why? He finally asked. Why would she do this? I don't know, but Tyler, I think you need to confront her. Show her this evidence. Demand the truth. What if you're wrong? What if there's an explanation? Then she can provide it. She can show you real medical records from a real doctor at a real hospital. She can explain how she ran a 10K this morning if she has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She can account for what she did with the $85,000. If I'm wrong, she can prove it easily. And if you're right, then you're free. You don't marry her. You don't spend the rest of your life with someone who manipulated you this cruelly, and you report her to the police for fraud. Tyler was quiet for a long time. Then, I need to see her, now, tonight. I need to hear her say it. Do you want me to come with you? No, this is between me and her. But Maya, he turned to look at me. Thank you for investigating, for telling me. I know this was hard. I know you risked the wedding, your business, everything to tell me the truth. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Tyler. I wish I'd been wrong. Me too. He left my office, and I knew I'd never see the wedding happen. In fact, I'd probably never see Tyler again. But I'd done the right thing. I was certain of it. Tyler texted me at 9:47 p.m. You were right. She admitted everything. It's over. I called him immediately. Tyler, are you okay? No. His voice was destroyed. But I will be. Eventually. What happened? I went home, showed her the photos, asked her to explain. She tried to lie at first, said the race photo was old, that she'd rescheduled treatment, that you'd misunderstood. But I kept pushing, showed her that I'd verified she wasn't a patient at any hospital, told her I knew the medical documents were fake. And she broke down, admitted everything. She doesn't have cancer. She never did. She faked it all. Why? Tyler's voice was bitter. Because I was pulling away. About 18 months ago, I'd started having doubts about our relationship. I'd told her I needed space, that I wasn't sure I wanted to get married yet. And she panicked. She said she'd been losing me and didn't know how to keep me. So she faked stomach pain, went to some urgent care, got treated for what they thought was gastritis. And when I asked what was wrong, she told me it was cancer. And you believed her. Of course I believed her. Who lies about cancer? Who does that? His voice cracked. I immediately dropped all my doubts, told her I loved her, that we'd fight this together, that I'd marry her and take care of her. I became completely devoted because I thought she was dying. Tyler, I'm so sorry. She said it started as a small lie, but then I was so attentive and loving that she couldn't take it back. So she kept going. Got more elaborate, created fake medical documents, started wearing wigs and headscarves to look like chemo patients, lost weight on purpose to look sick, built an entire false reality. What about the GoFundMe? The money from friends? She spent it on clothes, trips, spa days, gym memberships. She said she felt like she deserved it because she was performing for me every day. The $85,000 I gave her for medical bills, also spent on herself. New car. Luxury vacations she told me she was taking to make memories before she died. Designer purses. She's been living like a millionaire on money people gave her because they thought she was dying. That's fraud. That's criminal fraud. I know. I'm reporting her to police tomorrow and to GoFundMe, and I'm suing her for the money back, though I doubt I'll ever see it. What about her family? Did they know? No. Her mother is devastated. I called Mrs. Chen after Amanda admitted everything. Her mother had been grieving for her dying daughter for 18 months. The betrayal, she's destroyed. She's disowned Amanda. And the wedding? Canceled, obviously canceled. I broke up with her, told her to get out of my apartment. She's staying with a friend, the few friends she has left after they find out what she did. Tyler, how are you, really? Long silence. Then, I don't know. Part of me is relieved she's not dying, but most of me is just shattered. I grieved her death for 18 months, Maya. I prepared myself to lose her. I said goodbye to her 1,000 times in my head. I watched her suffer, And it destroyed me, and all of it was fake. She watched me suffer, and she let it continue because it gave her attention and money. That's sociopathic behavior. Yeah, I'm realizing I was engaged to someone deeply mentally ill, which doesn't excuse what she did, but explains it maybe. I don't know. I'm too angry to feel sympathy right now. You're allowed to be angry. I'm angry. I'm devastated. I'm humiliated. Everyone knows. Everyone donated to that GoFundMe. Everyone felt sorry for us. Everyone rallied around us because they thought Amanda was dying. Now they'll know she was faking, that I was an idiot who fell for it. You're not an idiot. You're a kind person who was manipulated by someone skilled at manipulation. Still feels like I should have known, should have seen the signs. Tyler, listen to me. Professionals didn't catch this. She was convincing enough that hospitals saw her and assumed she had legitimate medical issues. Even I, who suspected something was wrong, couldn't prove it until I accidentally saw her at that race. You're not an idiot. You're a victim. Remember that. Thank you for everything. For investigating when it would have been easier to ignore your instincts. For telling me even though it meant losing the wedding booking. You saved me from marrying someone who would have kept this lie going forever. What happens now? Now I figure out how to rebuild my life, cancel the wedding venue, notify guests, return gifts, reclaim what's left of my savings, file police reports, sue her civilly, go to therapy to process 18 months of manipulated grief. Probably never trust anyone again. It was heartbreaking, but it was also survival. Tyler, you will recover from this. It'll take time, but you will. And someday you'll find someone who loves you honestly. Without lies, without manipulation, someone who doesn't need to fake dying to keep you. I hope you're right. I know I am. Amanda Chen's fraud unraveled quickly after that night. Within 48 hours, Tyler had filed police reports. Within a week, GoFundMe had frozen Amanda's account and launched an investigation. Within 2 weeks, Amanda was facing criminal charges for fraud, theft by deception, and wire fraud for the GoFundMe campaign. But the story doesn't end with Amanda's arrest. In part 3, I'll tell you about the police investigation that uncovered an even darker truth. Amanda had done this before, to a previous boyfriend, to a previous community of supporters. This wasn't a desperate one-time deception. This was a pattern about the trial where Amanda claimed she had Munchausen syndrome and needed treatment, not prison. About Tyler's victim impact statement that brought the courtroom to tears. About the donors who'd given money thinking they were helping a dying woman and felt betrayed when they learned the truth. About Amanda's mother, who testified against her own daughter, describing the pain of believing she was losing her child. About the sentence Amanda received. About where everyone is now. And about what I learned from this case. That sometimes the most dangerous manipulators are the ones who pretend to be victims. That compassion can be weaponized. That not everyone who looks like they're suffering actually is. Because Amanda Chen didn't have cancer, but she gave it to Tyler anyway. She poisoned his ability to trust, his financial security, his emotional well-being. She killed the person he was before her lies and left him to resurrect from the grief of someone who never died. Sometimes the wedding gets canceled. Sometimes the planner becomes a detective. Sometimes exposing fraud saves someone's life in ways that have nothing to do with medicine. 7 days until charges filed. 4 days until I discover she'd done this before. 48 hours until Tyler learns he wasn't her first victim. The morning after Tyler confronted Amanda, I received a call from Detective Marcus Rivera from the Chicago Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. Mrs. Sinclair, this is Detective Rivera. Tyler Brooks filed a fraud report yesterday and mentioned you were instrumental in uncovering the deception. I need to ask you some questions. We met at a coffee shop near my office. Detective Rivera was in his 40s, seasoned, with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen every kind of human deception. Walk me through how you discovered Amanda Chen was faking cancer, he said, pulling out a notepad. I told him everything. The initial suspicions, the surveillance, the hospital verification, the race photos, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. This is thorough, Detective Rivera said, reviewing my photos and documentation. You did our job for us. We're opening a criminal investigation based on the GoFundMe fraud. That's the clearest crime. Wire fraud, theft by deception. But I want to understand the full scope. What do you mean? Fraud this elaborate, this sustained. It's usually not a first offense. People who run cons like this have often done it before. I'm going to dig into Amanda Chen's background, see if there are other victims. You think there are? I'd be shocked if there weren't. This level of deception requires practice. You don't wake up one day and decide to fake terminal cancer for 18 months. You build up to it. Detective Rivera was right. 3 days later, he called me back. We found another victim. Actually, victims plural. Amanda Chen has done this before, multiple times. Detective Rivera met with me again to explain what his investigation had uncovered. Amanda Chen, age 28, has a history of medical deception going back at least 8 years. We've identified 3 previous instances. He laid out a timeline. 2016, 2017, age 20, 21. College boyfriend. Amanda dated a guy named Marcus Webb during her junior year of college. 6 months into the relationship, she told him she had leukemia. Marcus rallied around her, helped her through treatments, organized fundraisers, stayed with her when she was too sick to attend classes. The relationship lasted a year before Marcus transferred to another school. After he left, Amanda miraculously went into remission. She never mentioned cancer again. Did Marcus know she was faking? He suspected near the end, but never confirmed. When I contacted him yesterday, he said he'd always wondered, but felt too guilty to question someone with cancer. Hearing that she faked it with Tyler gave him closure, but also rage. He'd spent a year of his life caregiving for a fake illness. 2018, 2019, age 22 to 23. Previous fiancé. 2 years later, Amanda got engaged to a man named David Torres. 4 months into their engagement, she claimed she had thyroid cancer. David pushed back their wedding to focus on her treatment. He drained his savings, paying for what he thought were medical expenses. The engagement lasted 14 months before David's family hired a private investigator who discovered Amanda wasn't receiving treatment anywhere. David broke up with her, but he never pressed charges. He was too embarrassed. She's done this at least twice before Tyler. 3 times. There's one more. 2020, 2021, age 24, 25. Emotional manipulation. During COVID, Amanda joined an online support group for cancer patients. She claimed she had breast cancer and couldn't get treatment because of pandemic-related delays. She became close with the group, who donated money to help her with medical bills and living expenses. She collected approximately $15,000 from the support group before someone reverse image searched one of her hospital photos and discovered it was stock photography. The group confronted her. She disappeared from the community, but no one filed charges. Detective Rivera looked at me grimly. Amanda Chen has been faking serious illnesses to manipulate romantic partners and extract money from communities for nearly a decade. This is her MO. This is what she does. How has she gotten away with it for so long? Because victims don't report. They're embarrassed. They feel guilty about doubting someone with a serious illness. They don't want to look cruel or insensitive. And Amanda is smart. She targets people with empathy. People who would rather be deceived than risk being the person who didn't believe a cancer patient. What's the psychology behind this? Why would someone do this? Likely Munchausen syndrome or a factitious disorder. Mental illness where someone fakes or induces illness for attention and sympathy. But here's the thing. Munchausen can explain the behavior, but it doesn't excuse the fraud. She's not just seeking attention, she's extracting hundreds of thousands of dollars from victims. That crosses from mental illness into criminal behavior. What happens now? Now we build a case. We're charging her with wire fraud for the GoFundMe. That's federal. We're also pursuing theft by deception for the money she took from Tyler under false pretenses. And we're reaching out to her previous victims to see if they want to press charges for those incidents too. Will they? Marcus Webb said yes immediately. David Torres is considering it. The COVID support group is harder. Many members were genuinely ill and have since passed away, so tracking down living witnesses is complicated. We have enough with Tyler's case alone to prosecute successfully. How much prison time is she looking at? Wire fraud carries up to 20 years federal time. Theft by deception varies by state, But in Illinois, with the amount involved, she's looking at 2 to 10 years. Realistically, if convicted on all counts, she's probably facing 8 to 15 years with good behavior, maybe 5-7 years served. That seems light for destroying multiple lives over a decade. I agree, but it's the system we have. The arrest happened on October 14th, 1 week after Tyler's confrontation. Detective Rivera called me. "We're arresting Amanda Chen this afternoon. Wanted to give you a heads up since you were instrumental in the investigation. She's being charged with federal wire fraud and state theft by deception. We're executing a search warrant at her current residence to seize evidence, computers, phones, documents." "Where is she staying?" "A friend's apartment in Wicker Park. The friend apparently doesn't know about the fraud yet. This is going to be a shock for a lot of people in Amanda's life." I didn't attend the arrest. I had no reason to be there, but Detective Rivera called me afterward to fill me in. Amanda was arrested without incident. She claimed she didn't understand what she'd done wrong. Kept saying she was sick, that she'd been diagnosed, that this was all a misunderstanding. When we showed her the race photos, she changed tactics. Said she had good days and bad days, that running helped her cope with her illness. She's still lying. Pathologically, even confronted with undeniable evidence, she's doubling down on the lie. Her attorney will probably advise her to stop talking, but in the moment of arrest, she couldn't help herself. Kept trying to manipulate the narrative. "What did you seize in the search?" "Her laptop, phone, financial records. We found a folder on her computer titled Medical Documents, full of fake diagnosis letters, fake treatment plans, all created in Photoshop. We also found Google searches for how to fake cancer symptoms, signs of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. What does chemo feel like?" She'd researched her performance extensively. Premeditated fraud. Absolutely, this wasn't impulsive. This was calculated, planned, and executed with precision. She knew exactly what she was doing. "What about the money? Did you find where it went?" "Shopping, luxury purchases, travel. She spent the money Tyler gave her on designer clothes, expensive dinners, spa treatments, gym memberships, a new car. The GoFundMe donations went to similar expenses. She lived a lavish lifestyle funded by people who thought they were helping a dying woman. That's sociopathic. That's what the prosecution will argue. Amanda's defense will likely claim mental illness, Munchausen syndrome, diminished capacity, need for treatment, not punishment. But the prosecution has a strong case that she knew what she was doing was wrong and did it anyway for financial gain. The trial was scheduled for March, 5 months away. In the meantime, Tyler was working with prosecutors to prepare his victim impact statement. He asked me to meet with him to help organize his thoughts. We met at my office in November, a month after Amanda's arrest. Tyler looked different, still devastated, but also angry, energized by righteous rage rather than destroyed by grief. "I'm testifying," he said. "I'm giving a victim impact statement, and I wanted to destroy her defense. Tell me what you want to say. I want the court to understand what she did to me, not just financially, though losing $160,000 is devastating, but emotionally, psychologically. She made me watch her die for 18 months. She made me grieve her while she was sitting right in front of me. She made me prepare for her death every single day. Do you know what that does to a person?" His voice broke. "I couldn't sleep because I was so afraid she'd die in the night. I'd wake up multiple times to check that she was still breathing. I stopped making long-term plans because what was the point when she wouldn't be there? I turned down job opportunities because I didn't want to relocate when she needed care. I stopped seeing friends because I needed to be home taking care of her. I sacrificed everything, my career, my relationships, my mental health, my financial security, for someone who was lying to me every single day. That's powerful, Tyler. You should say exactly that. I want the judge to understand that she didn't just steal money. She stole 18 months of my life. She stole my ability to trust. She stole my peace of mind. She gave me PTSD, actual diagnosed PTSD from caregiving trauma for an illness that didn't exist. You've been diagnosed with PTSD? Yes. I'm in therapy 3 times a week. I have nightmares about Amanda dying. I have panic attacks when I see people in wheelchairs or hospital settings. I developed caregiver burnout syndrome, a real medical condition from taking care of someone who was never sick. She made me sick by pretending to be sick. You should include your medical records from your therapy and PTSD diagnosis in your victim impact statement. Show the court the physical evidence of the psychological damage she caused. I will, and I want to talk about the financial impact too. $160,000 is gone. My retirement savings wiped out. I'll be working until I'm 75 to recover what I lost. I can't buy a house now. I can't start a family. She stole my financial future. What do you want to happen to her? I want her to go to prison for a long time. I don't care about her supposed mental illness. I don't care about Munchausen syndrome. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She hid it. She lied to cover it up. She manipulated everyone around her. That's not mental illness. That's evil. Tyler's anger was justified, but I wondered if the court would see it that way. Tyler, her defense is going to argue she needs treatment, not punishment. They'll bring in mental health experts who will testify about Munchausen syndrome, about how people with this disorder compulsively seek attention through fabricated illness. They'll make her sound like a victim of her own brain. She's not a victim. The people she conned are victims. Me, Marcus Webb, David Torres, all the people who donated to her GoFundMe thinking they were helping a dying woman. We're the victims. She's a predator. I agree with you. I'm just warning you that the defense will paint a different picture. Let them try. I have evidence. Photos of her running races, hospital records showing she was never a patient, computer files showing she created fake medical documents, text messages where she discussed her performance with herself. The evidence doesn't lie, she does. Amanda's arrest made local news in November, and by December it had gone national. Chicago woman arrested for faking cancer to defraud fiancé. Fake cancer scam. Bride collected $200K for non-existent illness. Wedding planner exposes bride's terminal illness lie. The story had everything the media loved. Medical fraud, wedding drama, sympathetic victim, clear villain. It spread rapidly. My phone exploded with interview requests. I declined most of them, but I did agree to speak with one investigative reporter from the Chicago Tribune, who was doing a deep dive on medical fraud and Munchausen syndrome. Maya, what made you suspicious in the first place? The reporter asked. Inconsistencies? Small things that didn't add up. A supposedly terminal cancer patient who had very good days and very bad days, but no consistent decline. A bride who stood easily from a wheelchair when she thought no one was watching. Financial arrangements that didn't make sense. It was pattern recognition more than any single smoking gun. Do you think Amanda Chen has Munchausen syndrome? I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't diagnose. But whether or not she has a mental illness, she committed fraud. She took money under false pretenses. She manipulated multiple people over a decade. Mental illness can explain behavior without excusing it. What do you want people to know about this case? That medical fraud is more common than people think. That we need to balance compassion for genuinely ill people with healthy skepticism when something feels wrong. And that sometimes the most dangerous manipulators are the ones who pretend to be vulnerable. The article ran in mid-December and went viral. It included interviews with Tyler, with Marcus Webb, Amanda's college boyfriend, and with Detective Rivera. It painted a comprehensive picture of Amanda as a serial con artist who'd used fake illness to manipulate for nearly a decade. Amanda's attorney released a statement claiming the article was biased and that Amanda was struggling with serious mental health issues that required treatment. The statement also said Amanda deeply regretted any pain she'd caused, but maintained she genuinely believed she was ill during these periods. No one believed that defense. The evidence was too clear, the premeditation too obvious, but it set the stage for the trial's central question. Was Amanda a mentally ill woman who needed treatment or a calculating criminal who needed prison?
Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming tales. And while you're at it, drop a like and let us know what you think in the comments below. Now, let's get back to it.
72 hours until verdict, 48 hours until sentencing, 24 hours until Tyler gets closure. The trial began on March 15th in federal court for the wire fraud charges, with state charges to follow if needed. I attended every day. Tyler had asked me to be there. You're the reason this is happening. You deserve to see it through. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, victim advocates, members of the online cancer support group Amanda had defrauded, curious onlookers who'd followed the case in the news. And sitting in the front row, Tyler, Marcus Webb, David Torres, and Mrs. Patricia Chen, Amanda's mother, who'd disowned her daughter and was testifying for the prosecution. Amanda sat at the defense table, looking small and fragile. She wore minimal makeup, a simple dress, her hair pulled back. She'd lost weight since her arrest. Whether from stress or strategic choice to appear sympathetic, I couldn't tell. Her attorney, Richard Feldman, different from Marcus Feldman, my attorney, was a high-priced defense lawyer known for getting sympathetic outcomes for clients with mental illness claims. The prosecution was led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Martinez, who specialized in fraud cases and had a reputation for being merciless with white-collar criminals. Jennifer Martinez's opening statement was devastating. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about lies. Not small lies, not white lies, but elaborate, calculated, sustained lies designed to extract money and sympathy from trusting victims. Amanda Chen spent nearly a decade perfecting the art of faking serious illness. She researched symptoms. She created fake medical documents. She lost weight deliberately to look sick. She performed illness like an actress performing a role. And she did it all to manipulate kind people into giving her money and attention. Martinez walked the jury through Amanda's history, the college boyfriend, the previous fiancé, the online support group, and finally Tyler. Tyler Brooks loved Amanda Chen. When she told him she was dying, he gave her everything. $160,000 of his own money, his retirement savings, his mental health, his future. He sacrificed years of his life, taking care of someone who was never sick. And all the while, Amanda Chen was at the gym, at brunch, running 10K races, living a lavish lifestyle funded by his grief. The prosecution called Tyler first. He took the stand, looking composed but devastated. Martinez walked him through the timeline, meeting Amanda, falling in love, the cancer diagnosis, his immediate decision to marry her and care for her. Mr. Brooks, how did Amanda's diagnosis affect your daily life? It consumed everything. I woke up every morning afraid she died in the night. I rearranged my entire work schedule around her treatment appointments. I cooked special meals because she said chemo made her nauseous. I helped her shower because she said she was too weak. I slept in a chair next to the bed so I could monitor her, breathing. I lived every single day preparing to lose her. And all of that was based on a lie. Yes. How did you feel when you learned Amanda wasn't actually sick? Tyler's voice broke. Relieved that she wasn't dying. Destroyed that she'd lied. Betrayed beyond anything I can articulate. She watched me suffer every day and let it continue because it gave her what she wanted. What did it give her? Money, attention, control. I was completely devoted to her because I thought she was dying. I never questioned her, never pushed back on anything, never prioritized my own needs. She had total power over me through her fake illness. Martinez then presented the evidence. The race photos, the gym surveillance footage, the hospital records showing Amanda was never a patient, the fake medical documents found on her computer, the Google searches about faking cancer symptoms. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, devastating. Next came Marcus Webb, Amanda's college boyfriend. Mr. Webb, Amanda told you she had leukemia in 2016. How did that affect your relationship? I completely reorganized my life around her. I drove her to fake appointments. I held her through fake chemo side effects. I fundraised for her fake medical bills. I gave her money, time, emotional support. And I felt guilty anytime I was frustrated or tired because how could I complain when she was fighting for her life? Did you ever suspect she might not be sick? Toward the end, yes. Small things didn't add up. But I felt terrible for doubting her. You don't want to be the person who questions a cancer patient. So I pushed my doubts aside. How do you feel knowing she was faking? Angry, betrayed, stupid for falling for it, but mostly angry that she took a year of my life and made me grieve someone who wasn't dying. David Torres, the previous fiancé, testified similarly. Same pattern, Amanda claiming illness, him sacrificing everything, eventually suspecting but feeling too guilty to accuse, relationship ending when the truth emerged. Then came Mrs. Patricia Chen, Amanda's mother. She took the stand crying. Martinez approached her gently. Mrs. Chen, Amanda is your daughter. Why are you testifying for the prosecution? Because what she did is unforgivable, Mrs. Chen said, voice shaking. I'm her mother. I thought I was losing my child. I grieved for her every single day. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I cried constantly thinking about burying my daughter, and she let me suffer because it gave her sympathy. That's not mental illness, that's cruelty. Did you give Amanda money for medical expenses? About $40,000. Everything I had saved. She told me insurance wasn't covering treatments, that she needed experimental therapy. I gave her everything because what mother wouldn't, and she spent it on clothes and vacations. Mrs. Chen, do you think your daughter needs treatment or punishment? Mrs. Chen looked directly at Amanda. She needs prison. She needs to understand that actions have consequences. Mental illness isn't a free pass to destroy people's lives. Amanda was crying at the defense table, but I couldn't tell if the tears were genuine or another performance. Finally, the prosecution called me. Mrs. Sinclair, you're a wedding planner. Why did you investigate Amanda Chen? Because small inconsistencies bothered me. A supposedly terminal patient who had very energetic days. Financial arrangements that didn't make sense, and my instincts told me something was wrong. What convinced you Amanda was faking? When I saw her running a 10K race, the same woman who'd been in a wheelchair at our meeting 3 days earlier was sprinting across a finish line. That's not a cancer patient having a good day. That's a healthy person performing illness. Why did you decide to tell Tyler Brooks what you'd discovered? Because he deserved to know the truth. He was about to marry someone who'd been lying to him for 18 months. He'd drained his savings for fake medical bills. He'd sacrificed his future for a lie. I couldn't let that continue. Were you concerned about losing the wedding booking? Of course. But losing a booking is less important than preventing someone from marrying a con artist. I'd make that choice again. The prosecution rested after 5 days of testimony. The evidence was comprehensive, the witnesses credible, the fraud undeniable. Now it was the defense's turn. Richard Feldman's opening statement painted a completely different picture. Ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Chen is sick. Not with cancer, with factitious disorder, commonly known as Munchausen syndrome. This is a recognized mental illness where people compulsively fabricate or induce illness because of deep psychological need for attention and sympathy. Amanda didn't fake cancer for money. She faked it because her brain compelled her to. She is as much a victim of this disorder as the people she deceived. Feldman called a psychiatrist, Dr. Ellen Morrison, who'd evaluated Amanda. Dr. Morrison, what is factitious disorder? It's a mental illness where someone falsifies physical or psychological symptoms in themselves or others. They may fake symptoms, exaggerate symptoms, or even induce real symptoms through self-harm. The motivation is to assume a sick role and receive attention and care. Why would someone do this? Often it stems from childhood trauma, neglect, or abuse. The person learned that being sick is the only way to receive love and attention. It becomes a maladaptive coping mechanism. Did Amanda Chen exhibit signs of factitious disorder? Yes. Classic presentation. History of fabricating illnesses since her teens. Compulsive need for sympathy and caretaking. Inability to stop the behavior even when confronted. She fits the diagnostic criteria perfectly. Is this a mental illness or a criminal choice? It's a mental illness. People with factitious disorder can't control the compulsion to fake illness. It's not a rational choice. It's a psychiatric condition. Martinez cross-examined aggressively. Dr. Morrison, did Amanda Chen know that faking cancer was wrong? On some level, yes. Did she take steps to hide her deception? Yes. She created fake documents, avoided hospitals where she might be discovered, performed illness only when witnesses were present. So she knew she was lying and took steps to conceal the lie? Yes, but that's called premeditation, Dr. Morrison. That's called fraud. Mental illness doesn't mean absence of criminal responsibility. Factitious disorder is complex. Dr. Morrison, has Amanda Chen ever sought treatment for this supposed disorder before being arrested? No. Has she ever admitted she has a problem? Not until recently. So for a decade, she faked illnesses, took money from victims, and never once sought help for her compulsion. Many people with factitious disorder don't recognize they need help. Or maybe she didn't seek help because she didn't have a disorder. Maybe she's just a con artist who got caught. The defense also called character witnesses, friends who testified that Amanda was kind, that she struggled with low self-esteem, that she'd had a difficult childhood. They painted her as damaged and desperate for love rather than malicious. Finally, Feldman called Amanda herself. She took the stand wearing a simple dress, minimal makeup, looking small and vulnerable. Feldman approached gently. Amanda, why did you tell Tyler you had cancer? I don't know. Her voice was barely audible. I was scared he was leaving me. I panicked. I said I was sick and suddenly he loved me again, and I couldn't take it back. Did you intend to hurt him? I never. I loved him. I love him. I just wanted him to stay. Why did you create fake medical documents? Because I was in too deep. Every lie required another lie to cover it. I couldn't stop. It was like I was trapped in a role I couldn't escape. Why didn't you seek help? Amanda started crying. I was ashamed. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. And I was terrified of losing everyone if they knew the truth. Amanda, do you have remorse for what you've done? Every day, I destroyed people I love. I hurt Tyler, my mother, my friends. I hate myself for it. I wish I could take it all back. It was a good performance. Sympathetic, vulnerable, exactly what the defense needed. But then Martinez stood up for cross-examination, and she eviscerated Amanda. Martinez didn't approach gently. She walked right up to Amanda with a folder of documents. Ms. Chen, you testified that you couldn't stop faking illness, but you stopped when it was convenient, didn't you? I don't understand. You performed illness around Tyler, but on days when he was at work, you went to the gym, ran races, socialized with friends. You could turn the performance on and off. That's not compulsion, that's choice. I had good days. You had days when witnesses weren't present. That's called being a con artist, Miss Chen. Feldman objected. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge said. Rephrase, Ms. Martinez. Ms. Chen, how much money did you collect from Tyler Brooks for fake medical expenses? I'm not sure exactly. $160,000. Does that sound right? Maybe, yes. And how much did you collect from the GoFundMe campaign? Around $38,000. So nearly $200,000 total. Where did that money go? Medical bills, living expenses. Let me refresh your memory. Martinez pulled out financial records. This is your bank statement. Over 18 months, you spent $45,000 at Nordstrom and other luxury retailers, $15,000 on spa treatments and salon services, $8,000 at restaurants and bars, $12,000 on 2 vacations to Mexico and Hawaii, 25,000 chillers on a new car. Where are the medical bills, Miss Chen? I had some medical expenses. You had 0 medical expenses because you weren't sick. You spent money intended for cancer treatment on designer purses and beach vacations. That's not mental illness, that's fraud. Amanda was crying, but Martinez didn't let up. Ms. Chen, you testified that you loved Tyler and never intended to hurt him. But you watched him suffer every day, didn't you? You watched him cry. You watched him sacrifice his career, his savings, his mental health, and you let it continue. Why? I didn't know how to stop. You could have told the truth at any time. Tyler, I'm not actually sick. 4 words, why didn't you say them? I was afraid of losing access to his money. No, afraid of losing him. But you didn't love him enough to be honest with him. I did love him. Miss Chen, if you loved him, you wouldn't have spent 18 months making him prepare for your death. Love doesn't watch someone suffer and stay silent. That's not love. That's sadism. Objection. Feldman was on his feet. Counsel is testifying. Sustained. Ms. Martinez, stick to questions. Ms. Chen, have you repaid any of the money you stole? I don't have it anymore. Have you attempted to make amends to your victims? I wrote apology letters. After you were arrested, after you got caught. Did you apologize before you were caught? No, because you weren't sorry. You were just sorry you got caught. That's not true. Ms. Chen, you've testified that you have factitious disorder and couldn't control your behavior, but you controlled it very well, didn't you? You knew when to perform illness and when to be healthy. You knew to create fake documents to support your lie. You knew to avoid real hospitals where you might be discovered. You made calculated choices every single day. That's not mental illness, that's criminal behavior. Amanda was sobbing now, makeup running, looking destroyed. Martinez returned to her table. No further questions. The defense tried to rehabilitate Amanda on redirect, but the damage was done. Martinez had methodically dismantled every element of the mental illness defense and exposed Amanda as a calculating con artist. After 3 weeks of testimony, both sides rested. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom was silent. On the count of wire fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of theft by deception, how do you find? Guilty. Amanda collapsed at the defense table, sobbing. Her attorney put a hand on her shoulder but said nothing. Tyler, sitting in the front row, closed his eyes. Not relief, not celebration, just exhaustion. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. Sentencing day was even more packed than the trial had been. Before the judge announced the sentence, victims were allowed to give impact statements. Tyler went first. Your Honor, Amanda Chen took 18 months of my life. She made me watch her die every single day. She made me grieve someone who was sitting right in front of me. She poisoned my ability to trust, my financial security, my mental health. I developed PTSD from caregiving. For an illness that didn't exist, I lost $160,000. That took me a decade to save. I lost my future. And she watched me suffer and let it continue because it gave her what she wanted. His voice broke. I hope the court understands that she didn't just steal money. She stole part of my soul. And I want her to go to prison long enough that she can't do this to anyone else. Because she will do it again if given the chance. This is who she is. Marcus Webb spoke next, describing how Amanda's fake leukemia in college had stolen a year of his life. David Torres spoke about the fake thyroid cancer that nearly destroyed him financially. Mrs. Patricia Chen spoke through tears about the pain of believing she was losing her daughter. Finally, the judge addressed Amanda directly. Ms. Chen, you've been convicted of serious crimes. The evidence showed a pattern of deception spanning nearly a decade. You targeted vulnerable, caring people and manipulated their compassion for your own gain. You caused immeasurable emotional and financial harm to multiple victims. Amanda stood, crying, as the judge continued. Your defense argued that you suffer from factitious disorder and should receive treatment rather than punishment. I acknowledge that mental illness is real and that you may need treatment. However, mental illness does not absolve you of criminal responsibility. You knew what you were doing was wrong. You took elaborate steps to conceal your deception. You spent money on luxury items while your victims sacrificed everything. Those are the actions of someone making conscious choices, not someone compelled by uncontrollable illness. The judge paused. On the federal charge of wire fraud, I sentence you to 12 years in federal prison. On the state charge of theft by deception, I sentence you to 8 years, to run concurrently. Total sentence, 12 years, eligible for parole after 8 years with good behavior. Amanda collapsed. Her attorney caught her. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution to your victims, $160,000 to Tyler Brooks, $40,000 to Patricia Chen, $15,000 to the online cancer support group. Additional amounts to Marcus Webb and David Torres. Total restitution, $237,000. The judge looked at Amanda with something that might have been pity. Ms. Chen, I hope you use your time in prison to get the mental health treatment you clearly need. But more than that, I hope you develop empathy for the people you've hurt. You destroyed lives for attention and money. That's not illness, that's evil. Court is adjourned. Amanda Chen was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, still crying, her family nowhere to be seen. Her mother had cut all contact. Tyler stood in the hallway afterward, looking shell-shocked. 12 years, he said. Is that enough? I don't know, I said honestly. Is any amount of time enough for what she did? I wanted life, Tyler admitted. I wanted her to never get out. But 12 years, at least it's something. At least she can't hurt anyone else for a while. In part 5, the final part, I'll tell you about where everyone is now. 3 years after Amanda's sentencing, about Tyler's recovery process, the therapy, the rebuilding, the slow journey back to being able to trust again, about whether he ever found love with someone who didn't need to fake dying to keep him, about Amanda's time in prison, the mental health treatment she's supposedly receiving, and whether she's shown any genuine remorse or if she's just learned to fake that too, about the other victims, Marcus, David, Mrs. Chen, and how they've rebuilt their lives after being devastated by Amanda's lies, about the changes I made to my wedding planning practice after this case, about the screening questions I now ask, about how to balance compassion for genuinely ill clients with healthy skepticism, and about what this case taught me about medical fraud, Munchausen syndrome, and the weaponization of vulnerability, about how the most dangerous manipulators are often the ones who look the most helpless, about how compassion, while essential, can be exploited by people without conscience. Because Amanda didn't have cancer, but she gave Tyler a different kind of terminal diagnosis. The belief that love comes with suffering, that trust is dangerous, that vulnerability is a weapon. And sometimes the wedding that never happens is the one that saves a life. 3 years after Amanda Chen's sentencing, I received an unexpected email. Subject: Thank you. Wedding inquiry. Dear Maya, this is Tyler Brooks. I don't know if you remember me. We worked together briefly before my engagement to Amanda Chen ended in 2019. I wanted to reach out for 2 reasons. First, to thank you for what you did. You saved my life in a very real way. Second, I'm getting married, for real this time, to someone genuine. And I'd like to hire you to plan the wedding, if you're willing. Tyler. I stared at the email for a long time before responding. Tyler was getting married again. After everything Amanda had put him through, he'd found the courage to trust someone new. I called him immediately. Tyler, of course I remember you. I'd be honored to plan your wedding. Tell me everything. We met at my office the following week. Tyler arrived with his fiancée, Rachel. Tyler looked different, healthier, lighter, like someone who'd finally put down a weight he'd been carrying. He'd gained back the weight he'd lost during the Amanda years. The dark circles under his eyes were gone. He looked happy. Rachel was warm, genuine, and completely different from an Amanda. She was a therapist, which Tyler acknowledged was somewhat ironic. Rachel specialized in trauma recovery, Tyler explained. We met in my PTSD support group about 18 months ago. She was leading the session. We broke every ethical guideline by dating, Rachel said with a slight smile. I was the facilitator. He was a participant. We waited 6 months after he completed the program before we started dating, but still. Not exactly textbook professional boundaries, but it worked, Tyler said, squeezing her hand. Tell me about your relationship. How did you move from trauma support group to dating? Tyler's expression became more serious. After Amanda's trial, I was destroyed, completely non-functional. I couldn't work, couldn't sleep, couldn't trust anyone. I developed severe PTSD from what's called caregiver trauma, psychological damage from providing intensive care to someone under false pretenses. I didn't know caregiver trauma was a thing. Most people don't. But it's real and it's devastating. I spent 18 months in survival mode, hypervigilant, exhausted, grief-stricken, watching someone I loved die slowly. And then discovering it was all fake. My brain couldn't process it. I had flashbacks to caring for Amanda, panic attacks in hospitals, nightmares about her dying, classic PTSD symptoms. That's when you joined the support group? My therapist recommended it. Rachel was running a group for people who'd experienced trauma in intimate relationships. I showed up thinking I'd be the only person with my specific story, but trauma is trauma. Other people's experiences were different, but the recovery principles were the same. Rachel added, Tyler was incredibly brave in group. He was vulnerable, did the work, didn't hide from the pain. After he completed the program, he asked me to coffee. I said no initially, ethics issues, but he persisted respectfully, and eventually I said yes. We've been together ever since. What made you trust again, Tyler? After what Amanda did? Tyler thought carefully before answering. Therapy, a lot of therapy and time, and Rachel being patient with me. I told her on our first date about Amanda, the whole story. I expected Rachel to run. Who wants to date someone with that much baggage? But I didn't run, Rachel said. Because I understood trauma. I understood that Tyler wasn't broken. He was healing. There's a difference. And I was willing to move at his pace. What was that pace? Slow, Tyler said with a slight laugh. We dated for 6 months before we kissed, another 6 months before I could say, I love you without having a panic attack. Rachel had to prove over and over that she was who she said she was, that she wasn't hiding anything, that she wouldn't suddenly reveal some devastating lie. How did you prove that? I asked Rachel. Radical transparency. I showed Tyler my medical records. He needed to know I was actually healthy. I introduced him to my family early. He needed to see my relationships were real. I let him verify everything about my life, work, friends, background. I understood that for Tyler, trust wasn't freely given anymore. It had to be earned through consistent honesty. That must have been hard, I said, being constantly scrutinized. It was worth it, Rachel said simply. Tyler's an incredible person who survived something horrific. If being transparent and patient was what he needed to feel safe, that was a small price to pay. When did you know you wanted to marry her? I asked Tyler. About a year into dating, I had a panic attack, a bad one. We were at a restaurant and I saw a woman in a wheelchair and just broke down, completely dissociated, couldn't breathe, convinced Amanda was there somehow. Rachel got me outside, helped me through it, didn't judge me or act like I was too much. And afterwards she said, Tyler, I love you, all of you, including the parts that are still healing. You're not broken. You're recovering, and I'm here for all of it. His voice broke slightly. That's when I knew she wasn't with me despite my trauma. She was with me, period. She saw me completely and chose me anyway. That's what love actually looks like. I was crying. Rachel was crying. Tyler was crying. So yes, Tyler said, I'm ready to get married. For real this time. To someone who doesn't need to fake dying to keep me. Planning Tyler and Rachel's wedding was completely different from the Amanda experience. Everything was real. Everything was honest. Everything was healthy. They wanted a small ceremony, 75 guests, mostly close friends and family. No elaborate deception, no hidden agendas. Just two people who loved each other celebrating publicly. I want the wedding to be about joy, Tyler said during planning. Not about fear or obligation or grief, just joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. We chose a venue that had no connection to anything Amanda related. A botanical garden, beautiful, life-affirming, full of growth and renewal. Rachel chose a simple but elegant dress. Tyler wore a suit he picked out himself without anyone's input. They wrote vows that were honest and vulnerable, and they made one unusual request. They wanted to acknowledge Tyler's past at the wedding. I don't want to pretend Amanda didn't happen, Tyler explained. She shaped who I am. The trauma changed me, but Rachel helped me heal. I want the ceremony to recognize that journey, from darkness to light, from betrayal to trust, from death performance to actual life. So we incorporated that theme. The officiant, someone from Tyler's trauma recovery community, opened the ceremony with this. We gather today to celebrate love, but not just any love. Love that persists after betrayal, love that rebuilds after destruction, love that chooses trust after trauma. Tyler and Rachel's love story isn't simple or easy. It's complicated and hard-won and beautiful because of that complexity. They didn't find each other in perfect circumstances. They found each other in brokenness and built something whole together. That's real love. Tyler's vows included, Rachel, you taught me that love doesn't require suffering. That trust can be rebuilt. That vulnerability isn't a weapon. You gave me back my future when I thought I'd lost it forever. I promise to love you honestly, trust you completely, and build a life with you that's based on truth. Rachel's vows included, Tyler, you're the bravest person I know. You survived something that would have destroyed most people. You did the hard work of healing. You took a chance on love again when you had every reason not to. I promise to honor your courage, protect your trust, and remind you every day that you're safe with me. There wasn't a dry eye in the botanical garden. The reception was joyful, dancing, laughter, celebration, without shadow. Tyler's friends from his trauma support group were there. Rachel's family was there, and notably absent, any mention of Amanda, any whisper of the past, any cloud over the happiness. At the end of the night, Tyler pulled me aside. Thank you, Maya, for saving me 3 years ago and for helping me celebrate today. You gave me back my life twice. You gave yourself back your life, Tyler. You did the work, you healed, you chose to trust again. That was all you. But you started it. You noticed something was wrong when no one else did. You risked your business to tell me the truth. I'll never forget that. Amanda Chen, currently in federal prison. Amanda is serving her 12-year sentence at a federal women's prison in West Virginia. According to Detective Rivera, who stayed informed about the case, she's been a model prisoner, participating in therapy programs, taking education courses, maintaining good behavior. Whether the therapy is actually helping or whether she's just performing reformed prisoner is unclear, Detective Rivera told me. People with factitious disorder are excellent actors. It's hard to know if she's genuinely working on herself or if she's just doing what she needs to do to get paroled early. Amanda is eligible for parole in 5 more years. She served 3 of her 8-year minimum. The parole board will consider victim impact statements when that time comes. Tyler has already written his Amanda Chen should serve her full sentence. She showed no genuine remorse during trial, only regret at being caught. She has not repaid any restitution. She has not made meaningful amends. I don't believe she's changed. I believe she's waiting to be released so she can find new victims, keep her in prison. Mrs. Patricia Chen, Amanda's mother. Patricia cut all contact with Amanda after the trial. She hasn't visited the prison. She hasn't written letters. She's completely disowned her daughter. I don't have a daughter anymore, Mrs. Chen told me when I checked in with her last year. The daughter I raised wouldn't have done what Amanda did. The person in prison is a stranger to me. Mrs. Chen is in therapy herself, processing the grief of losing her daughter twice, once to fake cancer, once to real incarceration. I'm angry, she admitted. Angry at Amanda for lying, angry at myself for not seeing it, angry that I wasted 2 years grieving someone who was perfectly healthy. That anger doesn't go away. Marcus Webb, college boyfriend. Marcus, Amanda's first known victim, has moved on with his life. He's married now to someone he met through a friend, someone with no connection to Amanda. He has a daughter. Finding out Amanda faked leukemia gave me closure, Marcus told me. I always wondered if I'd been a bad boyfriend for doubting her. Learning she was lying the whole time absolved me of that guilt. I wasn't cruel for questioning. I was perceptive. Marcus received $15,000 in restitution from Amanda to be paid from prison wages, which will take decades. He donated it all to a legitimate cancer charity. I don't want Amanda's money, he said. I want that money to go to people actually fighting cancer. People Amanda insulted by faking a disease that kills millions. David Torres, previous fiancé. David, the fiancé before Tyler, struggled more with recovery. The betrayal devastated his ability to trust, and he's been in therapy for years. I was engaged to marry someone who faked thyroid cancer for over a year, David said when we spoke. I watched her suffer. I rearranged my entire life to care for her, and it was all performance. How do you trust anyone after that? How do you believe someone when they say they love you? David hasn't dated seriously since Amanda. He's focused on his career and his own healing. He's hopeful he'll eventually trust again, but he's not there yet. The online cancer support group, the COVID-era support group that Amanda defrauded, has mostly disbanded. Many members have passed away from their actual illnesses, which makes Amanda's deception even more grotesque. But one surviving member, Sarah Martinez, reached out to me after the trial. Amanda joined our group when we were most vulnerable. We were scared, sick, isolated by COVID. We couldn't get treatment because of pandemic restrictions. We were dying, and Amanda pretended to be one of us. She took our money some of us needed for actual medical care, and spent it on luxuries. That's not mental illness. That's evil. Sarah has become an advocate for medical fraud awareness, giving talks about how to verify someone's illness claims before donating money. After Amanda's case, I fundamentally changed how I approach wedding planning, especially for couples facing health crises. New screening process, medical documentation when relevant. If a couple mentions serious illness as a factor in wedding timeline, I now politely request basic verification. Not medical records, that would violate HIPAA, the confirmation that they're actually receiving treatment somewhere. Can you provide a letter from your doctor's office confirming your treatment schedule so I can plan around appointments? Most legitimate patients have no problem with this. Con artists can provide it. Financial transparency. I ask more questions about budget sources, especially when large amounts are involved. Are you comfortable sharing where funding is coming from? Personal savings, family contributions, crowdfunding. This helps identify potential fraud before I'm complicit in it. Reference checks. For clients with unusual circumstances, I now call previous vendors they've worked with. I'm planning a wedding for Amanda Chen. Have you worked with her before? This would have flagged Amanda immediately since previous vendors had fired her when they suspected fraud. Trust my instincts. I no longer dismiss red flags out of politeness. If something feels wrong, I investigate. I'd rather lose a booking than participate in fraud. Industry advocacy. Since Amanda's case, I've become an advocate for medical fraud awareness in the wedding industry. I've written articles for wedding trade publications about recognizing factitious disorder, signs that someone might be faking illness, inconsistent symptoms, avoiding verification, performing illness only around certain people, balancing compassion and skepticism, how to be sympathetic to genuinely ill clients while maintaining healthy skepticism about suspicious situations, legal obligations, when vendors are required to report suspected fraud versus when it's optional, protecting ourselves, how to avoid being complicit in medical fraud schemes. I've also trained other wedding planners on these topics. Because Amanda wasn't unique, medical fraud in weddings happens more often than people realize. The guilt I carry. Despite doing the right thing, I still sometimes feel guilty about investigating Amanda. What if I'd been wrong? What if she'd actually been sick and I'd destroyed her wedding based on incorrect assumptions? What if my investigation had traumatized a genuinely ill person? These questions haunt me because the reality is I took a risk, a calculated evidence-based risk, but still a risk. But then I remember Tyler's face when he learned the truth, the relief mixed with devastation, the way he said, "Thank you for saving me." And I remember that sometimes suspicion, uncomfortable, socially awkward suspicion, saves lives. The balance. The hardest part of this case has been learning to balance compassion with skepticism. I've planned weddings for genuinely terminally ill people since Amanda's case. Beautiful, heartbreaking celebrations for couples facing real mortality. And every time, I find myself watching for signs of fraud, questioning whether the illness is real, looking for inconsistencies. That's what Amanda's deception costs, not just Tyler's trust, but mine. Now, when I meet a dying bride, part of me wonders if she's actually dying or performing death. It's exhausting, it's sad, and it's necessary. Because the alternative, blindly accepting every claim of illness without verification, leaves vulnerable people open to exploitation. I'd rather be uncomfortably skeptical and occasionally wrong than compassionately naive and definitely complicit. After Amanda's case, I became obsessed with understanding why someone would do this. I read extensively about Munchausen syndrome, factitious disorder, and medical fraud. Here's what I learned. Munchausen syndrome is real. Factitious disorder is a genuine mental illness where people compulsively fabricate or induce illness. It's not just lying. It's a psychiatric condition with neurological components. People with this disorder genuinely cannot stop themselves from faking illness. It's compulsive, like OCD or an addiction. They know it's wrong, but they do it anyway because the psychological need for attention and sympathy overrides rational decision-making. But Munchausen doesn't excuse fraud. Having a mental illness doesn't absolve someone of legal and moral responsibility. Plenty of people with mental illnesses manage not to commit crimes. Depression doesn't excuse theft. Anxiety doesn't excuse assault. And factitious disorder doesn't excuse fraud. Amanda knew what she was doing was wrong. She took steps to hide it. She spent stolen money on luxuries. She continued the deception for financial gain, not just attention. That crosses from mental illness into criminal behavior. The manipulation is sophisticated. Medical con artists like Amanda are incredibly skilled manipulators. They research symptoms meticulously. They lose weight deliberately to look sick. They create elaborate fake documentation. They perform illness with Oscar-worthy conviction. They target people with empathy, caregivers, nurturers, people who'd feel guilty doubting someone with a serious illness, and they exploit that empathy ruthlessly. The most dangerous thing about medical fraudsters is that they look exactly like actual sick people. There's no obvious tell, no easy way to distinguish performance from reality. That's what makes detection so hard and so necessary. The victims are never stupid. One thing I want to emphasize, Tyler, Marcus, David, Mrs. Chen, none of them were stupid or gullible. They were empathetic people who trusted someone they loved. That's not a character flaw, that's humanity. Amanda didn't succeed because her victims were dumb. She succeeded because she was skilled at deception and willing to exploit trust without conscience. Blaming victims for falling for it misses the point. Con artists are called con artists because they're good at what they do. Falling for a skilled manipulator doesn't make you an idiot, it makes you human. 5 weddings where I've gone beyond planning into investigation. 5 cases where my job became protecting people from fraud, abuse, or exploitation. Lauren, the poisoning bride. David, the bigamist. The Chen family, immigration fraud. Sarah and Alex, queer survival in homophobic environment. And now Amanda, medical fraud. Each case has taught me something different, but Amanda's case taught me the hardest lesson. Compassion is essential, but it can be weaponized. We need empathy. We need to believe people when they say they're suffering. We need to support sick people without demanding proof of illness at every turn. But we also need healthy skepticism. We need to verify claims when large amounts of money or major life decisions are involved. We need to trust our instincts when something doesn't add up. The balance between compassion and skepticism is impossible to perfect. Too much compassion leaves you vulnerable to manipulation. Too much skepticism leaves you cold and untrusting. I don't have the answer. 3 years after Amanda's case, I'm still figuring it out. What I do know is this. The most dangerous manipulators are the ones who pretend to be victims. Because we're trained socially, ethically to believe victims, to support vulnerable people, to extend benefit of the doubt to those claiming suffering. Con artists know this, and they use it against us. Amanda Chen pretended to be dying to access money, sympathy, and control. She weaponized victimhood to manipulate kind people into serving her needs. That's the con. And it's devastatingly effective because questioning it feels like moral failure. But sometimes questioning victimhood isn't cruelty. It's discernment. It's protecting actual victims from being exploited by fake ones. Tyler and Rachel's wedding was perfect, not perfect in the aesthetic sense. There were small imperfections, minor mishaps, things that didn't go exactly as planned. But perfect in the way that matters, authentic, joyful, real. At the reception, Tyler gave a speech. 3 years ago, I was planning a different wedding to someone I thought was dying. I spent 18 months preparing to lose her, grieving her while she was alive, sacrificing everything for someone who didn't deserve it. The room was silent. And then Maya Sinclair, my wedding planner, saved my life. She noticed something was wrong when no one else did. She investigated when it would have been easier to look away. She told me a truth that destroyed my world but ultimately freed me. Tyler looked at me. Maya, you're the reason I'm standing here today. If you hadn't exposed Amanda, I'd have married her. I'd probably still be with her, still being manipulated, still living in that lie. You gave me the chance to heal, to find real love, to have this actual wedding with Rachel. Thank you. The room applauded. I was crying again. After the speech, Tyler and Rachel danced their first dance to Begin Again by Taylor Swift. The lyrics were perfect, but on a Wednesday in a cafe, I watched it begin again. That's what recovery looks like. Beginning again after devastation, dancing after being broken, trusting after being betrayed. Tyler got his happy ending, not the one he planned with Amanda, something better, something real. And Amanda's still in prison, serving time for what she did. That's justice. Not perfect justice. Nothing undoes the damage she caused, but accountability, consequences, recognition that compassion. when exploited requires correction. If you've stayed with me through this entire story, through the suspicion, the investigation, the arrest, the trial, the recovery, thank you. This case is different from my others because the victim survived and thrived. Tyler rebuilt his life. He found real love. He got his wedding, just not with the person he expected. That's the best possible outcome for a story that started so darkly. If you're facing medical fraud or suspect someone is faking illness, trust your instincts, document inconsistencies, verify claims when significant resources are involved. And remember, questioning suspicious circumstances isn't the same as attacking sick people. Skepticism protects actual victims by exposing fake ones. If you've been victimized by medical fraud, you're not stupid. You're not gullible. You were targeted by a skilled manipulator. The shame belongs to the con artist, not to you. Seek therapy, file reports, pursue justice, and know that recovery is possible. Tyler is living proof. If you're wedding vendor, trust your instincts, verify unusual circumstances, balance compassion with due diligence. Don't participate in fraud out of politeness. And remember, losing a booking is better than enabling a crime. 5 major cases. 5 times my job went beyond flowers and timelines into moral complexity and criminal investigation. I'm a wedding planner. I create celebrations of love and commitment. But sometimes, the most important thing I do is recognize when the celebration is built on lies. Amanda Chen didn't have cancer, but she created illness in everyone around her. Tyler's PTSD, Mrs. Chen's grief, the financial devastation, the trust damage. She was a contagion pretending to be a patient, a predator pretending to be prey. And stopping her meant saving Tyler from a marriage that would have slowly killed him. Sometimes the wedding gets canceled 3 weeks before the ceremony. Sometimes the truth destroys everything, and sometimes that destruction is the only path to actual healing. Tyler's standing at an altar now, his real altar, with his real bride, saying real vows that aren't based on fake dying. That's what success looks like in my line of work. Not always the wedding planned, but always the truth revealed. And the truth, however painful, is always better than a beautiful lie.
Thanks so much for joining us on this journey. If you loved this tale, please subscribe to Tin Tea Tales for more stories like this one. Hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and check out our latest uploads on the channel. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next one.